So the other day I was like, I think we were sitting at lunch and Cece was sharing some frustrations with me.
Oh.
And just with some clients and one in particular that was really challenging her. And I was like, yeah, I get it. I've been there. And I just figured I just needed to let her vent a little bit, just kind of get it out.
Yeah.
It just got me to thinking like, I haven't been like in the direct client coaching game for a little bit, but man, do I remember those days and being super frustrated as a coach. And, you know, when I get frustrated, I would stay frustrated for a little bit and then try not to resent, you know, whoever I was frustrated about and have to remember like, this is the job. This is what I signed up for.
This is the life we've chosen.
Yeah, it's the Lord of the life that's chosen me, however you want to look at it. And, you know, with that, just, okay, where do I fit into this? Like how much of this is me and how much of this is the client? And, you know, it just got me thinking like at some, you know, over the years, there were clients that I fired. And because, not just because I was frustrated, but because this relationship clearly wasn't going to work out. And neither of us were getting what we wanted or needed out of that, you know, quote unquote relationship. And so I actually thought about it. I was like, you know, we should do an episode, you know, for coaches, clients, potential clients. But I think this stuff actually transitions over into a lot of other areas in life, like relationships.
Oh, for sure.
Being a parent and whatever else. But there are some real frustrations that I think people can relate to. And maybe this brings just a little bit light to, maybe I could be approaching things a little bit differently. And maybe this is a time where I need to find a different coach, or as a coach, you need to find a different client. More importantly, like what are the top things that really frustrate the hell out of us as coaches? And how do you know if you're about to be fired by your client or your coach?
The warning signs.
Yeah, what are the warning signs? Like, I mean, I'll start over here with you, Cece. Like, what's like one of the number one frustrations for you?
You know, when somebody hires a coach, they're hiring a coach because they're trying to make an investment and they believe in what that coach has to help them along. And so when that relationship, when it's no longer, I guess, symbiotic, or where that client isn't respecting what the coach has to say or their guidance, then that's where things become challenging, I think. You know, you have to lay down expectations and boundaries on both sides when you go into a coaching relationship with somebody, and that's both sides. And when there is miscommunication or lack of communication, or, you know, one side isn't living up to the expectations, then things are going to start to go south.
Yeah, I feel you. I mean, I think everybody can relate to that. Like I said, I think this goes a lot further than just the coach-client relationship.
And, you know, in those relationships, it's not uncommon for those relationships to start to take on a different form than being very transactional, because you're getting to know your client and they're getting to know you. And so then there becomes a little bit of a personal investment there, in that you want that person to do well, you want to help them. And then when I think the personal starts to get in the way, and then emotions start to come about instead of it being a business relationship, then that's where I think frustration also comes in. So at least within personal training and coaching, I think that's where I've noticed it the most, because the clients that I've had for a very long time. And so they've come to me for a reason, they've stuck with me, and then all of a sudden there's been a shift, and then that's where I start to see the challenge.
Yeah, I think you made a good point as far as like where that line begins to blur between a business transaction, and then it becomes more of a personal relationship. And then I think it could cross into almost like a child that's no longer listening to their parent and no longer respects their parents' opinion. And then we start to, you know, have to maybe, you know, check someone like, hey, like, remember who's the expert here, and remember who you're paying for the information or for the assistance. Like, let's not get it twisted here.
Yeah, I think there's a couple of things to that for me. Excuse me. One is that you mentioned the expectations and boundaries piece, you know, kind of right up front. Like, and I think that'll come up as a theme, you know, as we go through here. But when people pay for something, like they pay for a service, they pay for a coach, and whether that's in, life coaching or a therapist or, the nutrition piece, the fitness piece, or in other worlds, it could be anything. You're learning how to drive, you're learning how to surf, you're learning how to, and maybe you're out on the firearms range or something like that. You're paying for somebody's time and their expertise to be able to walk you through, help you through your process of getting better or achieving whatever it is you're trying to achieve, right? Just because you pay for it doesn't mean you're going to get it, right? It doesn't work like that. It's not transactional in the sense that I pay for this and I get this. It's not as simple as that. I'm paying for this, and what does that mean? What does this exchange of funds get me? Like, I need to understand that up front. And I think a lot of times the frustration starts, or can start and stop with people when they really closely examine, like, what exactly am I paying for here? Just because I'm paying for a result doesn't mean I'm going to get it. I have work to do. And that's up to the coach to make sure they outline that for the client, right up front, and whatever the relationship is. Again, because it is transactional. And the other piece of that is what you guys articulated, quite well, which is, look, you work for this person as a coach, and this person works for you as a client. And when you work with somebody, particularly in areas like personal training or nutrition coaching, and which nutrition coaching is lifestyle coaching as much as it is nutrition coaching, 1000%, because we end up trying to coach people through, or having to coach people through, behavior change and the things that they're doing in their daily life, aside from what they're putting in their mouth every day or not putting in their mouth. That's a big piece of it. And it does get personal. That's the nature of the business. And you have to be very careful about what how much personal gets in there, and make sure you are checking those lines on occasion, whether you're the expert or not. It's just, it can very easily, and, people that have had these, had coaches in the past, they probably noticed this at some point, like, oh, that's a little too comfortable, sometimes inappropriate, or it's getting borderline inappropriate. I worked in this business for a very long time for a very large corporate company. And, the one thing I tried to tell everybody when I came into it, as a coaching coaches, was, don't shit where you eat, man. Yeah. Don't shit where you eat.
Rule number one.
Yeah. It's just, it never ends well. It just doesn't end well. And you're playing with your money. You're playing with your income. You're playing with your job or your career and your integrity at the same time. So drawing those lines is really important. And I think that's where a lot of frustration starts and stops. But in terms of, like, people's frustrations and how it manifests, that's what I want to know about. Like, what are the things that come up that drive you nuts, Stephen?
As far as when the client is beginning to get frustrated, or when I can tell that they're drifting.
Both, yeah.
Yeah. Well, the communication starts to fade a little bit. The communication, you can kind of feel and see the enthusiasm begins to kind of fade. Maybe when you're in the midst of a session, you're kind of getting a lot of, like, yeah, yeah, like a lot of nodding and, like, yeah, like,
they're not engaged.
Yeah, just not really engaged, not really enthusiastic, not really as communicative anymore, maybe slow to get back to you in terms of, hey, let's schedule our next session. And then, you don't hear back for a couple of days. You end up, feeling like you're chasing them versus them,
that is frustrating.
Being a willing participant.
That's frustrating.
And that's, that's when we start to cross into, like, hey, this is, I'm here to facilitate you getting the results that you desire. This isn't really necessarily about, I'm not the one who's looking to accomplish goal X. I'm here to assist you in doing that. But I can't want that result more than you want that result. So it shouldn't be on me to chase you down. I'm here. I'm ready to help you, but you need to take the initiative and be prepared to hold up your side of the bargain.
Yeah, so we're talking about a couple of things there. One is, like, communication and being respectful about it. Another one there is the motivation piece. And, like, you didn't say motivation, you said enthusiasm. And I think that goes hand in hand with motivation. Yeah. Like, when they come in, or when a client comes in, they're generally pretty gung-ho for whatever reason, whether because they've been forced into this, like, I need to do something now because there's some level of desperation, urgency, right? Or, I'm really doing it this time, and, I've thought long and hard about it, and I've set, finance aside and time aside, and I've examined my failures and successes in the past, and I'm really ready to put in the work. And then it's inevitably, particularly in nutrition coaching, in the lifestyle piece, you are going to have good and bad days, right? Period, end of story anyway. But with this stuff, it is a 24/7, 365 approach. I mean, we're talking about lifestyle, and when the realities of that hit in for people, you start to see the drifting, and sometimes it can manifest into this not being a good communicator.
Yeah, and I mean that. I think the initial motivation and enthusiasm is going to fade eventually. Motivation can only carry you so far, and then discipline needs to come in.
Yep.
So I think that again goes back to the setting reasonable expectations of the timeline, and that's a big part of the coaching aspect. And I think that's really the bulk of at least what I do. Setting macros and calories is maybe 25%
I
of
love
it.
that, yeah.
And the rest is being that guide through the process. Like, hey, Joe, Jane, I know you're super fired up about this right now, and that's fantastic. Let's get going. I'm ready to get you rolling. But I'm going to tell you right now, you're not going to be this fired up in a month.
Right.
It's going to begin to fade, and I'm just going to prepare you for that right now, and let's begin to address that before it even comes up. Because I know right now you think you're going to conquer the world, but it's going to start to peter out a little bit, but we don't want to peter out in our program.
I think that's solid advice for both ends, right? Like the coach setting that expectation, the client acknowledging that expectation, or the participant, whatever it is. Again, it could be outside personal training, nutrition coaching. Is a lot of things, but the laying the foundation. It's also one thing to say that and think that that's going to make it better. Like, okay, so I've said it. So when it comes up and you don't have that bandwidth, and it goes, remember, I told you so. That's not going to make it any better,
Yeah,
right?
It's not really very helpful.
It's not, but putting it out there that, hey, this is going to happen, so let's do some other work up front to figure out, so that we're prepared. So when that happens, how do we deal with it? And one of the biggest frustration that I have a lot of times is when it gets to that, or I have had in the past, and this happens with employees, relationship, kids, whatever. Like, you set the expectation, they were fired up about the new thing, the new puppy. It's a new puppy, right? Yeah. It's got everybody's attention, including their undivided attention. And over time, things come with puppies. They poop and pee on stuff. They destroy things. They are not easy, right? They make noise. They are not convenient all the time. They're not so cute, every day, all of that stuff. And it starts to show up. One of the bigger frustrations I have with that is the negativity that can come along with that. Now, again, you can set all the expectations you want up front, but this, now that I'm dealing with Debbie Downer. Okay, hold on. This is a decision you made. And to Steven's point, I am here to facilitate the process of training your puppy with you, right? I am not doing that for you. You are training your puppy. I'm walking you through the process on how to do that. And your puppy, again, you can use, whatever, you want there as your own puppy. But it's not my fault that the puppy isn't, the puppy's peeing in the house, right? Or the puppy chewed up your favorite shoes or whatever else. It's not necessarily your fault either, but it's part of the process. So when they start to kind of take out their frustrations on the coach or on the program and not look internally or look at the broader picture of what's really going on here, that's very frustrating for a coach. Yeah, it's exactly what it is. It's taking personal responsibility, but it's also realizing the realities of what you've signed on for. That goes back to what you said, Stephen, with regard to setting expectations, or, I think you brought it up too, CC, is setting those expectations up front. And what happens when we get to this point where you are frustrated? I think having the why and the purpose is the most important part you have here. And it has to be strong.
Absolutely.
It has to be the thing. So if the why was, I'm going to lose 10 pounds, look great in a bathing suit, I'm going to tell you that why isn't big enough. It's just not, it's not big enough. That's very shallow. And so I get even more frustrated when somebody's making it about that. And I'm going, it's not about your 10 pounds and looking good in your bikini. Your life is shit right now because you're not taking responsibility for all these other things that are going on. As a result, a byproduct of that is, no, you're not losing the weight and that you've paid me to help you lose, right? You've got all this other stuff that's completely out of control. Your house is a mess right now, right? And so, if you're taking it out on me on the phone, or you're ghosting me, on your appointments or whatever else, was another thing we can talk about. That's very, very frustrating for a coach, particularly somebody who is bought in and invested in helping you. So if you're one of those people right now who is just kind of just on the misery train and the woe is me, pathway right now, just understand that is all you. And your coach's job is not to pick you up out of that hole. Your coach's job, in my opinion, would be to be there to support you and not sign off on your bullshit. Be able to support you in helping you find a way to get out of your own little pity party right there. Because if you're coming and you're just pissy, like none of this, anything that I say to you, or
it's not getting through.
It's not going to get through. It's not going to help you. We have things we need to address here. So yeah, that you're taking your frustration out on your coach. It's out of line, right? If you're frustrated, it's totally okay to share that with your coach, but be careful how you're directing or projecting that. And the same goes for the coach. Like if you're frustrated with your client because they're frustrated, not appropriate for you to take out your frustrations on your coach. It's time to call a timeout, right? And like, hey, let's re-examine things. Let's go back to our purpose, our why, and let's re-examine the foundations and the fundamentals of what it is we need to be doing. Because I guarantee you, the reason we're not getting there is because there's some foundation or fundamental
we lost somewhere along the way. Yeah,
that's exactly right. Yeah, that's exactly right. So that's one of my things. Like, let's not get into a pissing match. And remember, we're not friends. That might sound very harsh. Like, I've had very strong relationships with clients to this day that I had for a long, long time. But in this environment, we're not friends. Not everybody can draw that line, right? This is a client, coach relationship here or whatever. Hey, you want to go out and have dinner or whatever? Okay, we put that over here. We're this way now, but we're back to the gym. We're back to the coaching sessions. That's very hard for people to do, and I do not suggest you do that. That takes practice and skill. And if you do choose to do that as a client or as a coach, choose wisely, because more often than not, this can end up in
not a great situation.
Not a great situation. Yeah, that's one of my big things is like, hey, keep your little attitude to your fucking self. Like, let's back up a few notches here. This is calm down. Let's take a deep breath and let's get back to basics.
Yeah. And then I think the where the coach's role can come in there is like, okay, what can we do? I mean, you can sense, you can feel when someone's frustrated. You can sense when they're in their head, when they're, starting to kind of roll their eyes at you a little bit. And then it's, where you can come in and say, let's see how we can shift the perspective here. Let's, again, try to re-examine why we're here, why we're doing this, why we got started, where we might have kind of began to drift off the path. And let's kind of shift the way we're looking at this versus like, I'm not getting what I want.
Yeah.
Wah.
That's a skill.
Yeah.
I mean, that is a skill that comes with time.
That's coaching.
Yeah. Being looking good, as a coach and knowing all there is to know about, nutrition, or knowing all there is to know about exercise programming doesn't do you a bit of good if you can't do what you just said, and do it effectively. So I think that's one of those things. I don't know what else.
What else as far as frustration?
Yeah.
Well, I guess the lack of focus and lack of drive, we kind of talked about that already, but
I think you talked about the why and the purpose piece. I think that really lends itself to the drive and the motivation. I think when motivation begins to wane, that initial, new puppy, new car starts to wear off. That's when you really need to tie back to that why, and it needs to be a strong why that's going to push you through when things become drudgery a little bit. You're going to show up to the gym and you feel like shit and you don't want to work out. You're going to want to smash a double instead of, your meal prep. That's when, from the coach's standpoint, I think you need to consistently remind your client or whoever you're working with of why they're doing this when they begin to, start to feel like, this is I'm getting kind of sick of this. I'm not seeing the amazing results that I thought I was going to get immediately when we first started. Again, setting the expectation that motivation is going to wane, but I think that's tying it back to that initial why keeps people going when things are starting to, slog.
Yeah. I mean, motivation is fleeting. Yeah. It's going to come and it's going to go. And all the, I guess pregame speeches and, pump up talks and whatever.
Rah talk.
It's not gonna change that fact. It's gonna happen. So this goes back, and I think I said this is gonna be an underlying theme, and that is that the upfront sort of intake and how we're establishing this relationship is so important there. So you mentioned like what is the why? What is the vision here? What are we trying to get to? We have to keep that up front, and then everything sort of gets built around that. And now let's start to build some support structures in place when the motivation and the enthusiasm starts to wane a little bit. Okay, what can we come back to? What's our home base? And then with that, also you need to have a plan, right? There has to be a clearly laid out plan and how that plan or that solution is going to work with flexibility. For the times when they fall off or they want to smash the double, like as a coach, like that shit's going to happen.
Understand that not everything's going to be linear, right? So it's going to be non-linear. I think the other thing is too, when we're talking about the focus of the draw or the drive of the client, the coach also needs to understand or have the mindset that they understand that client isn't always going to be 100%, that they're going to be non-linear as well with their motivation. And so being there to be supportive and to be consistent and provide a consistent service for that person, because you know what? They're still showing up.
Regardless of the mood they're in.
Exactly, or how they're feeling. So being able to be flexible there. So I think it's also, the coach's frame of mind.
Yeah. Have some patience. I think that's a big part of for the coaching piece is having the patience to know that your client is going to have up and down days, and to not lose your patience or begin to get frustrated. You're dragging ass. Like let's get to it. Those days are going to happen.
Being flexible.
We should be further along than we are right now. Nope, we are where we are, and that's where we're where we are. Yeah, I think the client, if you will, the participant gets a little bit of a pass on not showing up at 100%, on occasion, and even to these appointments where they may be a little frustrated, a little bit moody. These things happen, right? But as a coach, you don't get that. You don't get that luxury. You got to show the fuck up.
Yep.
You got to put the hat on. You got to go if you got to go into the locker room or to the bathroom, whatever, bang your head into a locker or the friggin' paper towel dispenser to get yourself fired up, do some pre-workout, whatever else. That's your job, right? To be 100% for your client. I'm not saying you have to be, Tony Robbins 100%. That everybody's 100% is a little bit different, but you don't have the luxury of coming in at 98 or 99. And if you are doing that, you need to check yourself, right? And also examine, like, if your client's frustrated and they're not coming in at 100, where are you meeting them, right? At the same time, like, am I there, or am I letting them drag me down, or did the clients 1 and 2, they were just vampires? They just sucked and drained the energy out of me. Now I got clients 3 and 4 that are coming in. What Scott are they getting? Right? Versus my first 2 clients. Like, okay, well, if I got drained 10% by the first one and 20% by the second one, that means I'm coming in at 70%, for clients 3 and 4. It's not a good baseline to be working from. So managing your time, I think, as a coach and a client are very important. So on the client side, like, let's not overcommit to things that we are not clear on. And if there needs to be an adjustment made, advocate for yourself that adjustment needs to be made. And we can talk even something as simple as your appointment time. So if you're finding, like, I am rushed to get on this appointment, like, I thought the time to do it would be, every other week during my lunch break, but God, the boss seems to always carry over this meeting and I feel rushed, or, there's too much distraction, or I'm recognizing, like, ironically, I'm not eating my meal during that time or whatever that I should be eating, and it fucks up the rest of my day. Advocate for that. Not everything's linear, and nothing's going to be concrete here. Good coaches will respect that, right? And have some flexibility there. But take into account those things that may be getting in the way, those obstacles, and let's start to eliminate those so we have less and less frequency of this, this falling off, this lack of motivation. And it doesn't become about motivation, it becomes about doing the thing. Making a lifestyle.
Yeah, I think that's a super important point, and I think that's something that I have been. We talk about things that do get a little bit frustrating. Is if someone is afraid to ask for what they need.
Yeah.
So I always try to create that space as best as I can. If you can tell someone's being kind of quiet, or maybe they're not really giving you everything, they're not really divulging what's really on their mind, just kind of creating that space. Well, what can I do for you today? Do you have any questions? What can I do to help you get where you need to go? And at least opening up that conversation, but also on the client end, not being afraid to ask for what you need.
Such a great point. Again, let's go back to the relationships thing. everybody's been in that situation where their significant others like giving them the cold shoulder, or they're just a little quiet. Everything okay, babe? Fine, it's fine.
Oh, the 4-letter F word.
Yeah.
If I hear that word, I go, oh fuck, okay, hold on, drop what you're doing.
Yeah, exactly.
Let's
tend to this right now.
But here's my thing. So here's my thing as a coach, and here's my thing as a partner, right? Like in the thing is, I'm a fixer, I'm a solution finder, right? So I want to get to the bottom of this, and I want to figure it out right now. And if I can't, I actually start to get like a little bit frustrated. And the trick is to do what you just said there, Stephen, which is like, okay, let me just back up for a second. Let me ask a few questions instead of giving information or trying to ask such direct questions that lead me down the path to the solution. Because again, I'm trying to find a fix to this. So I'm gonna take a tangent side trip here on the, we talk about here like education drives compliance. So going back to the expert piece, like I'm the expert, I'm supposed to be the expert in giving you again, facilitating, giving you the information that's gonna help you get where you need to go. And over time, as people start to learn what works, what isn't, truths versus fallacies, and specifically and more importantly, what works, what's the truth for them, because there is no one size fits all. The education does drive a little bit more compliance because they understand about how the decisions they're making, or the food that they're putting in or not putting in, or the water that they're drinking or not drinking, or the workouts they're doing or they're not doing, or the rest they're getting or not getting, how it impacts them. So they're making more informed decisions. And if they're making a decision that they're already educated on, right, and they get an outcome that's non-desirable, they go, yeah, I know exactly.
That was my fault.
I did that. Yeah, that's totally me. And that's how the coaching's working, right? That's what coaches should be doing, is getting people to that point.
The point that they can self-correct.
Yeah. So, coming back, I think to the root, of all that is like, yeah, you want people to open up to you. Like you want to find out how you can help them. And it's not necessarily about going at them with like, did you do this? Did you track? Oh, well, you didn't track. So, I can't help you. Or it's like, okay, let's again, pull all that away. If that's not working right now, maybe just step back and ask a few questions. What can I do to help you right now? Like without giving them any information, and try and tease that out of them a little bit. And then be honest and upfront. Like, to me, it seems like you're a little frustrated. Am I wrong?
Yeah.
Or am I in the ballpark? Like, I really want to help with this, and be okay with the answers that you get. Because if you're going to ask the questions,
be prepared.
Be prepared for the answers that you get. You might not like what you're getting in return. That is, you may get something you're like, okay, well, that's another excuse that I'm hearing my client give me. That's a cop-out. Or they're asking me to sign off on some bullshit I'm not going to sign off for. Take a couple deep breaths before you respond. I think I used to hear this referred to as like, ask the third question. So keep asking, ask the first question, get an answer, ask the second question, and then even ask another question to kind of get there. The whole idea is to get to the answer, but help them get to their own answer. And if they can do that, then you're in such a much better position to help them. Now, on the client's end of things, if you're responding with, no, it's fine, or you're giving your coach the cold shoulder, well, expect that your coach is going to get really frustrated with you, and you've left them nowhere to go. So if you've left them nowhere to go, then you should expect that this is not going to be a successful relationship, or you're probably not going to get what you want out of this. I mean, I don't know if you guys have had that experience or similar experience, but the times get tough. And, a lot of times it's like, God damn it, here we are. We're going right back to where we were 3 weeks ago, same conversation all over again. A lot of times it's like parenting. Take a deep breath. Ask a couple questions and try to bring awareness to the situation for each party so that we can move on. Otherwise, you might wind up, you're wasting your time. Everybody's time is being wasted. You're spending money. You got a client or a trainer that might resent you at this point. And what's the point? What's the point?
Yeah, you don't want to be in that type of a relationship.
What's the point of any of that?
Yeah.
Oh, one of the other things that really bothers me is when this starts happening is people start like the ghosting and they're not respecting the time.
The late canceling or the ghosting.
Yeah. I don't think anybody would argue with that that's just fucking rude. Like, just don't, that's just poor, that's ill behavior.
Yeah. It's just not courteous.
And so I'll just put this out there.
It's disrespectful.
Yeah. As a client, like, just because you're paying for it doesn't mean it's okay to not show up for it. Because a good coach will have put in time before the appointment to prepare for that appointment. Right? And they could be meeting with somebody else that has much better attitude, who isn't unmotivated, who does want and need the help, who would gladly take that slot for you being, against you being, just rude and disrespectful because you're frustrated about something or whatever. It's too easy now to communicate, schedules and what's going on and whatever. Again, going back to self-advocating and not being afraid to ask for help. Like, hey, this isn't working out for me right now. If the relationship's not working out, great. Don't just leave it at that. Let's figure out what's going on. Like, you had a bad day. Okay. Like, anybody's been in that relationship where it's like, we're breaking up today? Like, what the fuck happened out there? Like,
what does your boss say to you?
Yeah, is this really what happened?
That went from 0 to 100 real quick.
Yeah. I mean, that's one thing. Like, you just don't do that. If you're doing that, you don't deserve that as a coach. And certainly if your client is doing that to you, or your coach is doing that to you, you don't deserve that as a client either. But that's a thing. So again, always revisiting the schedule, checking in, one of the rules I always made was before I hung up the phone or finished the session, before that person walked out the door, I was always confirming the next appointment, just to be sure. Even clients I trained for years. See you on Tuesday, same bad time, same bad channel. Yep. All right. It's been confirmed.
Yep. I mean, I'll still even reach out to them the night before as well. So I'll see them on the day of their session and we'll confirm the next week. And then even the day before that session, the following week, I'll text
just
them.
Making sure.
Just checking in. Still on.
And as a client, I think it's okay to do that with your coach too. To show them that you're bought in, just to double check, not as a means to.
Well, that's a very good sign. That's a very encouraging sign.
We love that. Hell yes,
encouraging.
Can't wait.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
If clients were doing that more, you'd have maybe you'd have less coaches that need to go into the locker room and bang their head against lockers. They'd be fired up coming in.
Yeah, and I think as far as on the coaching end of things, when you start to see a little bit of that flakiness, or when you start to see a little bit of the, the communication start to slip, that serves as a bit of a red flag. I have someone that I've been working with now for almost 6 months, and we were doing great for a few months, and then it started getting a little flaky, and then started to drift a little bit, and then it seemed like, oh yeah, I got to do this. Oh, something else is,
another priority.
All of a sudden this has become, the fifth priority. And that's when, as a coach, you need to come in and be, okay, what's going on? What's really going on here? What has changed? What is it that you're looking for that you're not getting? What is it? That's when I like to try to step in and try to put out the fire, versus I think it could be very easy to be like, all right, well, whatever. I have other people that I'm seeing.
Totally.
See you later.
I have a full book, so you don't matter.
Yeah.
That's a really good point. One of the things that comes to mind there is look, it's not going to be the first priority all the time. Like, we get that as coaches, like that is part of the thing. So if it moves to the fifth in the priority list, I guess we have to do a little triage and understand, like, at what point for this client is fifth in the priority list mean it's not getting done? Because fifth in the priority list for some people might be, it's high. Like, it's still at a level, it's still at a level, code red compared to the other 20 things on their priority list. They have that many things going on. But you need to establish that as a coach and and be proactive in stepping in there. But the same thing as a client, like, hey, like I need to be checked in with and advocate for yourself. Say, hey, if you see me start falling off, don't be afraid to call me out. I think that's important. Maybe less popular to do these days. People are kind of sensitive or whatever. I've noticed that, but I'm gonna let you know that as a client right up front. Like, hey, I'm not gonna sign off on your bullshit. If you're having issues, just call me. These are our appointment times. So if something really come up, something's really bothering you, hit me with the message and let's set up a time to talk. Like, most good coaches are gonna make time for that. Obviously, if that becomes an issue, that has to be managed. But repeated problems, like, we need to examine, like, okay, well, what's going on? But the point of this is advocating for yourself and advocating for your client that, hey, if we have to, we may need to do a little check in here just to recheck, like, baselines. If that wasn't established from the get-go, you're gonna have a tough time, finding the conversation piece to get them back on track. And one of the things that goes along those lines with me is making sure right up front, that we establish non-negotiables. Like, these are the things that I absolutely will not change. Like, I'm not willing to give up as a client. Like, like I do, I've said this.
As a client or as a coach?
Sorry, as a client. and as a coach.
Both,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah. So as a client, I absolutely will not give up my ice cream sundae on Thursday nights with, the kids and movie night. Good. Let's get that out there. Like you can still get great results eating that sundae. What else? I hate carrots. Good. Okay. No carrots.
Don't eat carrots.
We're not having the carrots. Like I like diet soda. I have one a day and I'm not giving it up. Okay. Let's just get it out there. Like, there's nothing wrong with that.
Versus me spending time trying to change something that you're not going to.
Yeah, let's put it out there. And I absolutely cannot meet on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays because I have this other thing. That could be another non-negotiable. Okay, good. We've got that established. Is there anything else? Like, let's put that out there. I think coaches need to do that as well. Like, what's a non-negotiable for you, CZ?
Oh, non-negotiable. What's a non-negotiable?
Moving on.
I mean, letting me know if you need to reschedule or cancel. Thankfully, this has very rarely ever come up like a no call, no show. That's like
you take that
that's
personally.
like forbidden.
Yeah,
that's
I think I try to give too much benefit of the doubt there because I will have established at the beginning if there's a no show or there's a late. You're going to be more than 15 minutes late, then we're not doing the session unless you communicate with me in advance that you're running really late. Depending on the situation, then if you arrive 15, 20 minutes late, then we'll work within the next 40 minutes that you have. But I will not be going over our time slot to accommodate you because I have other people that I'm seeing. I will charge you a forfeited session if you late cancel or you no show. If you have too many no shows and it's impacting my schedule, I'm going to check in with you and see what's going on. What can we do to change it? But if it's just a lack of disrespect, then I'm done. Another non-negotiable, I was telling Stephen about this earlier, and you'll remember this, is when we started working together early in the day, there was a client that they just stressed me out. A day, 2 days before I was going to see this person. Oh my gosh. Scott could see it on my face and he would say, oh, so-and-so is coming in, huh? Like, oh God, because every time we had a session, I felt as though he wanted to argue with me about what we were doing. And yet he was the one that had sought me out to get coaching. And we'd been working together for some time. I was also coaching his wife. She was amazing. But he was just kind of a curmudgeon, I think, and just was kind of miserable. And so he made everybody else around him miserable. And it got to a point where you got to let it go because it's not only affecting me, it was affecting the people I was working with because then they saw how I was that day. And yeah, it got to be toxic. So that is a non-negotiable now. I will not work with somebody like that ever again.
So what happened? Like, what happened with that relationship?
Actually got better.
Yeah, okay.
Believe it or not, because we stayed in contact. I continued training his wife. It actually got better.
But you stopped training him.
I stopped training him.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, that was the answer to that question. Because it's your responsibility in my mind at that point. If you're letting that person in,
it's totally on me.
Yeah, that's 100%.
Yeah,
you know who that is. You know who you're dealing with, right? And if you let that impact you and everybody else around you, shame on you.
I'm in control of my emotions. I'm in control of my reactions, right? Yeah, and I totally, that's on me 100%.
Yeah, you're not working out, my guy. Let's see other people.
Exactly. Part of the thing that frustrates me is that I just won't, I guess this is non-negotiable for me, and it's this. It's really simple. It's like I will not do anything from a coaching perspective or give you advice or change, the way from a programming perspective or anything else to do something that you think is in the best interest of your health when I know it isn't. I want to lose these 10 pounds and I want to do this and I want to go to this, then I'm the wrong coach for you because I know that that's going to be detrimental for you in the long run, whether that's taking some substance or, whether it's a drug, prescription or over the counter thing or whatever else. I've had that a lot. Like, I want to do this. Well, I'm the wrong coach for you, man. Like, I'm not going there. That's not what I do. if I think that it's not in the best interest of your health, I'm going to be really upfront with you about it. And it's not going to be like, hey, we're not friends anymore, quote unquote. We'll need to see other people because I'm not going to be that person for you. I just won't do that. I'll explain my reasons why, and again, I'll try to educate and be upfront with my reasons. But I will not compromise my integrity for money. I don't have to have you as a client. Like I will not be forced into that corner, and I won't let somebody treat me that way or demand things of me in that sense where like, well, because I pay you, I should get this, or no. That isn't the way
it works.
That isn't the way it works. And I find it interesting that and again, I'm not directly coaching anybody right now, but we do run into people like that where they have this sense of entitlement or this expectation that, again, like if I pay for this, I'm going to get this result, but also if I tell you I want this, you need to give it to me. Fuck that.
I remember I had a client once.
No, I do not.
I was going to tell her that I was taking some time off to go on a vacation. Maybe it was a couple of days or whatever. And she said, well, okay, well, I'll let you go on vacation. And I just kind of stood there and I looked at her and I thought,
I'm not asking your permission.
She just said that I'm going to let you. No, that's not how things work.
Yeah, that's a non-negotiable. Anything on your end? I mean, you mentioned the no showing the appointment time. I think you said that's forbidden.
Yeah. I mean, because that's just totally disrespectful. I mean, it's the no call, no show, to be specific. To just I'm sitting here waiting. I haven't heard from you, and then you just never show up.
Yeah. Again, very rarely happens.
Yeah,
and there's
rare.
Always a conversation if and when that does happen. Like I'm not going to let that one slide. Like it just didn't. Like that didn't just happen. That's not okay, because put yourself in the other person. If you're paying for that appointment, if I didn't show up for it, like where would you be with this? Same. Just doesn't that it's a two-way street.
Yeah, that's not a response of okay, no worries. That's not a no worries.
I think a lot of coaches, particularly the new ones, would say some of their bigger, like if they're new to the game, their bigger frustration is like, you came to me for advice. I'm giving you the advice and the instruction, whatever, and you're not taking it. And you seemingly maybe be arguing with me or pushing back on it. Yeah. That is a natural part of coaching. That's what you're signing on for. Like you're going to get a little bit of that, no matter how much you know, how much you went to school, what certifications you have, how cool you are, how hot you are, what outfits you wear, where you work, whatever else. You're always going to get people pushing back a little bit. I think that's good. I like being pushed back on as a coach. And more specifically, like, why are we doing this? Like if somebody's frustrated, like they're having a bad day and like, why am I doing this exercise again? I have a fucking answer for everything. Yeah. Like I didn't just randomly walk in here with this.
Yeah, I'm not making shit up here.
Yeah, I'm going to give you that answer. I'm going to give it to you respectfully, and there's going to be rationale for why I'm doing what I'm doing. So as a coach, like that's not like having a client push back, like, and not take everything you say as word. If that's frustrating you,
wrong profession.
Yeah, you got yourself into the wrong game here. Good clients should be asking those questions.
Agreed.
Yeah, I want them to. I want them to be questioning and knowing what's coming.
That shows a level of engagement on that.
Yeah, I love it. Yeah.
The thing that gets frustrating though, as a coach, is when there is a certain thing that's going on with this client and you give them specific instruction not to do, not to do a specific thing because it's going to aggravate whatever this specific condition is. And they go and they do that specific thing that you've told them not to do. Like, and then they come back to you and say that they're in pain and that they've been in pain since last week. It's like, wait a minute, didn't we go over this? I know we covered this.
These are adults. The emotion gets the better of people. I don't know what goes on with that, but I don't know if I've shared it on the show before. But daughter was very little. I don't know how else to teach you, kid. Like, if you stick your finger in that electrical socket, it's going to hurt. I'm telling you, don't do it. And what you do is you avoid that, right? You just don't go anywhere near there. If you need to plug something in, you come get your dad or your mom and we'll help you with it. But do not, I repeat, do not do this. And then they do it. And they're kind of looking at you like, they're looking at you while you're doing it. I go, I don't know what else to teach you. You're going to have to learn your lesson. The frustrating part is when they come crying to you, you know, like they're surprised that happened. I just told you not to do that. So now you know. But as we get to be guess daughter never did that ever again. Like she never put my finger in that socket again. I learned my lesson. That hurt, right? That was shocking, right? The problem that I see with adults is they will continually repeat the same behavior.
Insanity.
And continually be shocked. Like I told you not to do that. So I think that's a fair frustration. Like, I don't know what you want me to say or do at this point. Like, yeah, you're immobilized. You're debilitated.
Or we've taken 2 steps back when we were making progress forward.
Here we go. We're going back to that exercise you questioned me about 3 weeks ago. Like, why am I doing this? I told you why, and you were getting better. And guess what we got to do again? We're coming back to this because that's what worked. You messed this up. So by not doing what I asked you to do, or more specifically, you did exactly what I told you not to do. That's a pretty big frustration. So
there is going to be some degree of having to repeat yourself, but then I think it can be kind of a challenging to work out. Like, where is the line between I'm tired of telling you the same thing again? Like, at what point are you? I guess there's a difference between you're just not getting it. Maybe I need to say it differently, and you're not fucking listening.
Yeah.
You know what? So I just had this conversation the other day. I think with
that was the
Scott.
finger in the light socket, man. I don't know what else to say to you.
Working with clients for however many years, and we're doing a very basic exercise, and I just bang my head sometimes thinking, I know we've talked about this, and this is how I'd like for you to execute it, and I'm telling you this again, like.
What's not registering?
What is not registering? How do I need to communicate it differently so that it resonates? Sometimes I don't know.
Yeah, no, and that's fair that you don't know. You don't have to have all the answers. Coaches don't have all the answers.
You know what? Next time I'm going to do, when I have that client, I'm going to say, okay, I know we've gone over this multiple times. How can I explain it to you better? Or what do you need from me to help you remember how I want you to do this?
It's very adult of you.
I'm doing it next time.
It's very adult. It's like parenting sometimes. It is. At the end of the day, I thought we'd share this because we're at this time, like I don't know if we're moving into spring or not. It's really wild here or whatever. But like seasons do funny things to people, right? Like there's some seasonal things, like we call it seasonal depression. Lifestyles change, the time changes. When we start to get into that, circadian rhythms can really fuck people up, or disruption to that. It does to me. When we start adding hours and taking hours away, it takes me weeks to adjust. No matter how hard I try to make that adaptation happen, it just takes time for me. Little things happen. Things happen in people's lives, changes happening or whatever. And we're kind of we're 3-4 months into the year now, and we're starting to see people change their goals or have their motivations are changing, and they're having different. I guess their vision may have changed. So rechecking in with your vision on where it is that you're going and why it is that you're going there, I think is an important thing to do right now. Because if you've lost track of that, or if it's changed one way or the other, they're one and the same, if you will. You're probably going to be unhappy with the results that you're getting if you're still doing the same plan that was focused on another vision. So don't be pissed at your coach.
Yeah, communicate.
And coaches, don't be pissed at your clients or frustrated with your clients. Now's the time to check in. And this is the advice I give the coaches on the floor. Hey, time to recheck with your clients. Let's reestablish goals. Let's do, reestablish baselines, whether that's measuring things or reestablishing, caloric maintenances or, surpluses or deficits and things like
refocus. Yeah.
This is a natural part of the process. It's and this should be done. What isn't okay is to think that we're just going to do the same thing forever and nothing's going to change and there's not going to be any obstacles to overcome. So check with your coaches check in with your clients. And as usual, if you guys need help out there with the coaching piece, or maybe you just need some help establishing a new vision and what might be right for you, reach out to us. We'll be happy to help.